And while Magic Carpet Ride was imagining how awesome being in that movie would be, it took a wrong turn at Albuquerque. I was doing so well!
Yeah, we are in the place to be.
Hi-ho, GB Mythos here, and welcome to the Little Old People Podcast. I'm here with my co-old person, Mark.
A.K.A. the Little Black Dude. If this is your first time listening, we're two oldish nerds looking at random fandoms from varying directions.
I'm a historian and archaeologist by degree and a former wage slave by trade. Mark's a jeweler, YouTuber, and fellow fan enthusiast. Hey Mark, what comes to mind when I say Norman Reedus, David Carridine, and Udo Kier? That sounds like an epic film, right?
It sounds like the makings of a good movie, I'd think.
Well, you would only be sort of right. So, what would be a better way to continue season 2 of the podcast, but with a review of a hilariously bad movie? Now, normally, I wouldn't encourage you, my dear fan enthusiasts, to watch along with us. The movies we review are usually pretty terrible, and sometimes hard to find. In this case, this thing has to be seen to be believed. The film is on Tubi.tv, so it's free. And if you have an hour and change to kill, this might be a fun way to do it. The film's other star is Paul Sampson, who also wrote, directed, and produced it. He only has 2 other low-budget films on his IMDb page, and nothing else.
In my opinion, that's a good thing, because I only have 2 films on my IMDb page.
So this film opens on an epic sounding background choir, and there's a medieval map of the Mediterranean. It's 1095, the year Pope Urban II called for the First Crusade. We learn about the Knights Templar, and then we meet Lord Mordist McGurk Gregoire of Reading. He's our hero, but he looks like one of the Geico cavemen. Then we get a pretty good fight scene, honestly, for the quality of this movie. And damn it, if those Wilhelms don't have a long history. And apparently a storied one, too. We learn through overlapping exposition that the Geico caveman found a wagon of gold, and some of his men betray him and steal it, vowing to enjoy 10 lifetimes of excess on the spoils. He personally vows revenge, and they kill him in murder most foul. So far, so boring. I did like the pull-out shot in the field with nothing but grass and hedgerows that transitions into a small wood to let us know that time has passed, before flashing up to a stupid title card, letting us know it's now the present.
Dun dun dun!
So we see a walking mummy wearing a Templar ring. Oh, no, wait, sorry, that's the leader of the Templar Order. And he's called a meeting to let the brothers know that it's been 700 years since the caveman was betrayed, and that he will have his revenge.
Now see, this was my first big problem with this movie. I had problems from the beginning, but this was the first scene where I couldn't reconcile it as just bad movie is bad. What is happening in this scene? It could be inferred that there's a meeting between the living Templars, but we don't really see anyone in the scene other than the aforementioned Templar ring-wearing mummy. He delivers his warning speech and is never seen or heard from again in a significant manner. First, what? Second, the fuck?
Now, I was initially confused here too. If 700 years have passed, it should be about 1795. But then we see a car, and I realized the betrayal we saw took place around 1300, putting us in the late 1990s at the start of the action. Why did we need the 1095 bit, which only serves to muddle the story? But what do I know? I don't write screenplays.
They explained the beginning of the Crusade and the 200 or so years, in a throwaway line. I had the same problem until I did the math. I don't understand the need for that, though. All they needed was, it was during the Crusades! And they could have saved us a few minutes of bad movie.
Well, they had to get it up to, 75 minutes if they at least, so filler would be filler, yo. Yeah, so we flash to the title card and Magic Carpet Ride starts to play, which is one of my favorite songs and seems out of place in this movie. It plays over some lovely B-roll of the Italian countryside, and I hope you like that song too, because they play almost all of it.
Out of place is an understatement. The song was traveling to a movie about free love on the highway and people who own multiple vests with long leather fringe. It was excited about the premise of a motorcycle trip that not only brings action and pathos, it also builds lifelong bonds. And while Magic Carpet Ride was imagining how awesome being in that movie would be, it took a wrong turn at Albuquerque and ended up in this shit show.
So a red Mini that we've been following pulls up to a palatial estate, and we meet Jake, who looks suspiciously like the Geico caveman. Now, I get the impression that Jake is supposed to be hot, but there's something slightly off-putting about his entire facial structure. His lips are just a bit too large, and his bad The Beatles present Justin Bieber cosplay wig from Halloween Adventure isn't helping matters any.
Not at all.
Also, question. What man, regardless of sexual orientation, would wear a brown leather jacket tastefully paired with a spangly silver glitter scarf from Claire's tween clearance rack? Just why? So he flirts awkwardly with the Lyft driver, then gets out and makes his way up to the front of the house, which looks like a castle. He lets himself in, and then we smash cut to Udo Kier as a creepy priest in a church, being creepy by descending some stairs. End of scene. What the fuck?
That's another problem with this movie. It does not know what transition means. There's very little that is segued, let alone segued well. It jumps all over the place like a cat on a hot tin roof and makes an already convoluted movie frustrating to follow.
Yeah, so anyway, we go back to Jake, who has found the weapons room and starts having flashbacks as he looks at battle-damaged Templar shields hanging on the wall. He passes out, and we flash cut back to the priest, who seems to hear Geico Caveman threatening to come and get him. Smash cut to David Carradine, running the local grocery store / coffee bar, when a man whose face we don't see, wearing a Templar ring, walks into the store. We jump back to Jake, who's doing yoga in the weapons room, because being surrounded by instruments of violence creates just the right amount of atmosphere to clear your mind, really get you in that zen zone. But never mind that scene, we have to go back to the church, where a nun finds a book and a letter addressed to Father Creepy. He seems annoyed that the nun doesn't open his mail, then tells her to go away after he opens the package and sees a book inside.
Transition, damn it! Get off the trampoline and transition, you terrible, terrible movie!
Listen, they had their free trial of Adobe After Effects, and they were going to get their full 7 days out of it, damn it! Now, something happens in this movie that I find both interesting and annoying. We start jumping back and forth into the past, learning how the Geico caveman was betrayed. I like this because it's show don't tell. It annoyed me because it breaks up the story in a weird way.
I have no notes. You nailed it.
Fair enough. Now, the caveman seems to be a respected leader, and, he thanks his men one night as they're sitting around the fire. But he also manages to piss off one of a pair of Armenian brothers, Malkon and Menaeus. Yeah, Menaeus. So Menaeus gets his, brazen a twist because he was called the second greatest swordsman behind his brother. Maybe I missed something, but that's still a compliment. But he doesn't take it that way and threatens a squire who laughed at him with death. Seriously, dude, take a chill pill.
In his defense, being the younger of two brothers and the less charismatic of the two, I can understand to a point what Menaeus was feeling. His brother Malkon had more admiration, more notoriety. People saw him as a symbol of strength. Menaeus, in his own mind, was seen as just another soldier by the rest of the men. It's not necessarily right, but it's how I understand his character.
Okay, fair enough. I am a middle sibling, so fine. Fair enough, I get it. So, Renault, another knight, asks about the wagon of gold, then goes to whisper to Menaeus as the caveman blathers on about fighting evil and etc. to the tens of people that make up his troops. Now, the Crusades sucked. Let's just get that out of the way right now. I do not support that jingoistic bullshit, but they did back then. And they were wrong. So, we jump back to Father Creepy, who is reading the book he just got, then zoom! Back to the castle, where Jake is in his tidy whities, about to meet what I hope isn't intended to be the comic relief. The trans housekeeper / chef and her husband, the butler, Shauna and Benoit. Jake says he's the weekend coordinator, which means nothing at the moment, But then all Shauna wants to know is when she's getting paid, which, I can respect, though neither of them seemed inclined to do any work.
I was amused by the constant questions about pay. It was a small victory in a movie full of missed opportunities.
Fair enough. So, we jump back to Father Creepy, who is ignoring a blind woman who is giving her confession, though I can't say as I blame him. She's whining about her son and daughter-in-law and how no one listens to her anymore and is leaving her behind. So right then, Father Creepy gets up and leaves. Comedy!
When I saw the blind lady, I immediately knew he was going to fuck right off. And when he did, I wasn't surprised. Forget that whiny lady.
We watch a fancy car arriving at the castle, and from it emerges, in order, the mousy virgin, the whore, Norman Reedus, and the token bitchy Asian in a Kill Bill-esque yellow and black track jacket. Bitchy Asian flounces off, and the whore approaches Jake, asking for a light. Norman Reedus hops over, like she just offered to blow him right there on the doorsteps, and starts acting like a douchey meathead.
Because 90s. These stockish characters were what movies decided were personalities, and apparently people in general agreed. God only knows why.
Well, we didn't know any better. We were dumb. His name's actually Henry Flesh, but I'm not going to call him that.
No terrible movie is complete without a thinly veiled dick joke.
Yeah, very thinly. Anyway, Norman promises to do dirty things to Mousy Virgin, and Jake threatens him to leave her alone. One person seems to be missing, but the Drivertron 3000 doesn't know where they are, but it is wearing a Templar ring. Dun dun dun! So, Mousy Virgin introduces herself to Jake as Amy, and it's clear that she wants the D. This is also made hilarious by a reveal later in the movie.
Made me so mad. Cannot understand it, and I will explain it when we get there.
So hilariously stupid. And then you think back to this moment and you're like, oh.
Motherfuckers, what did you think?
Jake's an actor that lucked into this gig, and Amy's practically climbing him with glee as she flirts with him. Drivertron 3000 is still there, listening to this drivel and nodding sagely, a satisfied smirk on his face. This is fucking weird, as we will never see this character again for the rest of the movie.
Anybody else think this guy's related to the director? He had zero reason to speak.
Oh, he was definitely an under 5.
Mm-hmm.
We see Father Creepy out for an afternoon constitutional, and then we jump back to Jake, telling all of our characters that they are here for a fantasy weekend. No one else can know why they're there, and Amy pipes up like the good girl that she is to inform all of us of this, while Norman and the whore sprawl on the opposite couch. Norman is eating pretzel sticks, and we finally get the whore's name, Celine.
Norman should have been eating a peach for all the erotic overtones he was written with. And this premise of the fantasy weekend fell apart for me when the events coordinator fails to coordinate a single event for the thing they're supposed to be there to experience.
Well, I mean, they were only there for like one day, so...
True, very true. Still, though, a weekend is usually only 2 days, so coordinate, damn
it! So, Jake is trying to get some information out of, the bitchy Asian. Japanico, like, fucking what? When the last guest arrives, and, oh boy, we get to meet bitchy mean girl, Ashley, who is clearly stuck up, rich, and has way too much luggage for a weekend trip. Unless she plans on changing clothes every hour on the hour. Father Creepy's walk has just brought him to the castle, but we can't focus on that. We have to hop back inside to watch Ashley size up the room, kill it with a look, accuse Amy of being Kmart bargain bin poor, mocks her clothes, and then tries to leave.
I always wonder why this character exists in movies in general. The snotty bitch never adds anything and is almost always dealt a comeuppance. You see it coming as soon as they're introduced. Mm-hmm. If you're gonna give me cannon fodder, put a little thought into it, maybe.
She's just a meat shield.
You have no idea how true that is, by the way.
But giving her a character would require thought, and none was applied.
True.
Yeah, this is definitely a hear me out film. You and your buddies are drunk, high, or possibly both, and someone goes, okay, hear me out. That is this movie. So anyway, Jake calls Ashley out on her bullshit, then assaults her. She's a bitch, but that was a little far. She threatens to sue him and then leaves. Then we get to watch Ashley juggling her massive suitcases down a flight of stairs in 6-inch stilettos while she tries to phone her lawyer, but she can't get a signal on her phone. And the best actor in this scene? The fluffy black kitty who's chilling on a pool lounger.
The cat gets a credit in this movie. I wanted to see more of the cat. Not even gonna pretend. But I was pissed when the cat was never seen or heard from again. Like semi-likable characters on Saved by the Bell.
Just a small note here, but Ashley says she's so high status, but she's using the same luggage set that my mom owned in the 1980s.
It's vintage, therefore it's trendy.
Yeah, okay. No, you're wrong. Jake goes back to the weapons room to calm down.
As one does.
And to play his guitar, while eerie voices in his head tell him that he can't escape his destiny. He flips out and starts smashing his guitar, and I laughed way too hard, since the others can hear him having his conniption fit downstairs. So Ashley gets to her car, but it won't start, and she opens the trunk and sees that the battery is disconnected. Now, I'm not a big car guy, but why would you open the trunk to check on the battery in your car?
There are cars that have batteries in the trunk, and that's for weight distribution purposes. My Chevy Cobalt, for example, had that. It somewhat liked this, but it meant she would see her death coming just a little easier.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so she flips a switch, and the headlights come on, and then someone in full armor approaches her, and then we see a man in Templar garb imposed over Ashley for a second. Then the person in armor starts beating the ever-loving shit out of her.
And to the only merit this movie had. The death scenes were fun to watch.
Oh yeah, that was definitely where I'd say 90% of the budget and all of the script went.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they definitely got the few laughs that were in this pile of mess.
Mm-hmm.
This enjoyable pile of mess. Inside, Norman is telling the others that Jake is crazy, and Amy and Celine need to stay away from him. Norman doesn't include Japanico in this, and Amy is meticulously cleaning up their food containers, like whomever they rented the set from would only let them have it for a few hours, and they had to get their deposit back when they left. So Jake leaves to go shopping, and puts Amy in charge while he's gone. Amy finds a book on the table and starts reading aloud to this group of adults. This leads to the main flashback of the film, and we finally get a date. 1307. Iberian Peninsula. Valencia. Spain. Now, just to hop onto my history soapbox for a minute, some crusaders, often younger sons and poorer knights, went to Spain to help out with the Reconquista that was happening there, if they couldn't afford to go all the way to the Holy Land, or they were feeling lazy, but were still obliged to go on crusade. The Reconquista went from 711 to 1492, and was a 700-year push by various Spanish and Portuguese kingdoms to remove the Umayyad Caliphate from the European continent. Anywho, back to the movie. So, the Geico caveman rides through the camp as we listen to a panegyric about his greatness, as written by the director, producer, and star of the movie. Just putting that out there. So, we are slowly introduced to the soldiers. Henry, Esquire, Sergeant Melcon, who accuses the Geico of picking apples all day, even though his face is cut up and he's head to toe covered in blood. Those must have been some really vicious apples. Then he actually says that, and I was like, oh my god, really? I literally could have written this script. And we meet Coco, who is clearly low mentally, but is eager to fight. He's in charge of the horses and other such small errands, like, fetching water.
Coco's reminiscent of the hunchback in the movie 300, incapable of fighting, but eager to assist. He is also the only character in this movie that I like.
I know, right? So we jump back to the castle in modern times, and Father Creepy knocks and lets himself in, calls them children, invites them to church, and we get an overlay of who Shauna and Benoit were in the past. Then Father Creepy turns into Chester the Molester as he looks over and touches, without permission, I might add, both Amy and Celine. Then he leaves.
Why did they decide to do the overlays? We could have gotten that from context, and it would have made the characters at least more interesting. I still don't really know who was who of the minor players. The more they wanted us to care, the less I actually did.
Some of them were nameless on screen, which is super helpful. They all express a sense of deja vu. Then we jump back to the grocery store where we watch David Carradine eating an orange peel. I swear, he peeled an orange and ate the fucking rind. He then gives Jake half the orange and eats the rest. Why is this in here?
The scenes that got left in. These were the best scenes they shot. I can only imagine what they cut out of this movie.
You mean nothing? Nothing was left out, or they wouldn't have made runtime, like I said before. There would have been like 15 minutes of movie and then credits. So no, nothing got left on the cutting room floor. They had David Carradine for like half an hour, and they were like, hey, we gotta use it. So Jake and the clerk willfully misgender Shauna, which is kind of rude, and Jake refuses a ride, and they have a painfully awkward conversation. Then we smash cut to Shauna and Benoit being kind of cute together, actually. They seem to have a gambling problem, though, as Benoit is off to the pub to run the poker table on an out-of-town patsy.
I'm not completely sure Shauna was supposed to be trans, but I'm also not sure anything else in this movie. But it would be good if they took the time to do some research.
Oh, but don't you know? Trans people are hilarious. But she does introduce herself as Shauna, so until or unless she gives other indications, she's a female. Respect people's pronouns.
Yes.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Back to this shit show. So we hear Benoit getting killed in the garage, then back to Jake walking home. When he gets there, he gives Shauna a $20 tip, then goes out to look at Benoit, who is nail-gunned to a wall, quite dead. He doesn't seem as disturbed by this as a not psychopath might be.
Yeah, he just looks and is calm as can be. Then starts mopping with the saddest mop I've ever laid eyes on. How is this what we're doing? I was pretty aware of what was happening by this time, so I didn't really need to watch the rest, but we're doing a review, so on we go with, once again to be stated, this friggin' shit show.
Oh, come on. You know I watched this movie twice, right? Willfully,
Yes.
both times.
Yes. Cannot believe that you did that.
So we see Jake and Father Creepy spying on Celine and Norman, and she admits that she is a prostitute, so I wasn't being rude before. I have no issue with voluntary sex work as performed by consenting adults. So anyway, Norman gets that blowy that he's been hankering for, while Jake pervs on them. I had to laugh at Norman's bland delivery while choking himself with a belt and smoking.
Two things. One, I'm disturbed by Norman Reedus' acting. We know he's better than this. Two, it's kind of a macabre foreshadowing if you think about it. Ah, topical.
Yeah, also Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. So we see Shauna cooking something that looks really gross, and then she gets killed by a frying pan to the face and having her tongue ripped out. Jake finds her and has his first actual human reaction at finding a dead body. Sort of. He's mostly mad because now all the staff are dead and he has to do the cooking and cleaning. Our hero?
Our hero.
Back in the living room, Amy and Japonico are just sitting around waiting for their cues. And Norman and Celine return, and Amy goes on with the story.
Okay, let's address the fact that Japonico leaves every time the story gets to a crescendo, and they don't start reading again until she comes back. This is one of the weirdest things in the movie. It's supposed to misdirect the viewer and make us think Japonico is doing all the murders, but it's unfortunately a failed effort. She's mysterious in the same way it's a mystery how this director made more than one movie.
Hey, as long as you have a camcorder and some friends that are willing to work for beer and pizza, you too can make movies.
This is absolutely true because one of the movies I was in, that was pretty much the idea. And it still was better than this. Shout out to the art school dropouts. Check them out on YouTube. They are friggin' awesome.
Shameless plugs be shameless, yo.
Damn right, baby.
Renault is the leader of the conspiracy to steal the gold. It seems that Shauna and Benoit were once the monks that traveled with the soldiers to bless them before their battles. And Coco now overhears the conspirators, but all they do is tie him up. I found Renault's exasperation with everyone rather amusing, so that's the kind of asshole I am. So we jump back to the present, and the group splits up. Japonico to go pout, Celine to have a bath. Norman stays to creep on Amy, and Jake is still smearing blood around the kitchen with a mop, as he dances to big band jazz. Then Celine comes down to proposition Jake. He's really rude to her, assaults her. It's the second woman now he's assaulted in this movie, and makes her cry. Our hero?
Our hero.
Yikes. So Celine goes to have her bath, and we find out that she was one of the knights that betrayed the Geico caveman. She's literally feeling herself in the mirror, and then we get a nipple at the 1 hour mark.
Woo?
And then she goes to add something to the water, and we see the knight that killed Ashley again. Remember Ashley, the bimbo? Yeah. And that's Celine down. The knight tries to drown her, then stabs her to death when that doesn't work. Amy comes up and asks her to turn down the music, and therefore hears nothing. At this point, I'm wondering who these other people were and who's next on the hit list. Left alive are Japanico, the shopkeeper, Norman, Amy, Jake, and Father Creepy. Anyway, Amy keeps reading. Geico talks to Melkon, who wants to retire and take that vacation he's always dreamed about, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, he's dead.
2 weeks from retirement. Unfortunate.
So sad. No one could have ever seen it coming. Then we cut to a spider of foreshadowing.
Amusingly enough, called a White Cross spider.
Yeah, because this movie's subtle like that.
Yep, absolutely.
Then we hop back to the conspirators. Geico is way too trusting, and they easily disarm him. Renault telegraphs like crazy what he's about to do. Wouldn't it be great if we got paid more for this shit? You know, since we know how to trick the enemy and catch him off guard, and then keep all the shit we took? Crazy, huh? And Geico's like, oh, nah, fam, we're above that. You know, we are good at tricking people. Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, we are, but money's cool too. Stab! And then Renault kills Coco, which is sad. And the brothers talk too much. Then Meneas stabs Melkon.
Sad, but not surprising.
Yeah, and thus ends the flashback. Amy is weeping. Norman is like 5/8 asleep, and Japanico is stoic and clearly bored. Jake comes out of nowhere to spout some random BS. Norman tries to assault Amy. She says no, and Jake punches him.
Wow!
So Norman goes out to smoke.
Because that's what you do after somebody punches you in the face.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. And Father Creepy's creeping around, and, you know, if you've stuck with it this far, this is where this movie starts to get bat shit crazy. Norman is the squire that took Geico's sword, which we find out as the knight appears for the third time. They stalk Norman and torture him a bit, then pull a Caesar on him. Now we know it's not Father Creepy or Amy, because she's running around the castle looking for Jake. She finally finds the weapons room, and hears the same voices that Jake did earlier. She sees the shield that was used to kill Ashley, the dagger that took out Norman. How that got upstairs in that amount of time, we'll never ask. And Celine, and all the stuff is still dripping with blood. Okay, just take it from me. Blood dries fast, and Ashley was killed hours ago. That shield should be dry by now. The movie then spells out the plot for those of you that were not paying attention. And then Amy goes to look out the window and sees Jake in a bloody surcoat just chilling in the courtyard.
You know, as you do after you murdered 3 people.
Yeah, you know, just hanging out, no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So Father Creepy comes out to exposit, and shock horror, he's Renault. He asks what could be better than being a priest. Free food, a cut of the donations on Sunday, and all the nuns and altar boys his heart desires. Use me while I gag. Ugh. Anyway, so it turns out Father Creepy killed Benoit and Shauna, and he's been doing it constantly for the last 700 years. Guess everybody needs a hobby. Amy, listening at the windows to all of this, just accepts it without question. She hears that Japanico is Meneas, and assumes that she must be Melkon. Then, sudden David Carradine is sudden, and guess who Melkon actually is?
The person they spent half their friggin' budget on.
Now, I happen to love this fight between David Carradine and this actress, Mary Christina Brown. She is just working her heart out, and you can see the phone in his hand for all the fucks he's giving. It's fantastic. Not action-packed, but it does get the job done.
Meanwhile, I'm losing all of my shit, and am not able to find it watching the sloppy sword work between these two. Katana can be used one or two-handed. Whichever you choose, swinging the weapon like a bat is not effective! I cringed as I watched people get paid to suck at sword fighting. I expected better of Kwai Chang Kane. Fuck this movie right its ear.
Gave none of the fucks, and it's so great. I just love it so much.
0 fucks. He needed fucks in return. He gave so few. Kept all the fucks for himself.
Oh, the amount of cheese in the dialogue for the modern setting is just sad. They went for, ye oldie timey speech for the flashback, which worked for their stilted delivery. But in the modern setting, they just sound like a bad first-year acting class. Except David Carradine, who could deliver any cheeseball line and make it work. And Udo Kier, who makes a living chewing the scenery.
They were the only ones actually having fun in this movie.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. They did not care. It was great. I did like how they kept switching between Father Creepy and Renault as he taunted Jake, between the two brothers doing their duel. That was actually quite clever. So Amy decides to interfere in Jake's fight, and then we find out that she's Coco. As I said earlier, that makes her wanting to jump his bones as soon as they met. Super awkward.
Colonel motherfucking Stink Meaner, this made me angry. As soon as I heard Jake say she was a leader of men, I was like, oh crap, she's important to the story. Yay. And he used the same line for Coco. Yay, a second time. And the sheer fact that she assumed she was Melka made me want to barf up my earlier Pepsi into the one I was drinking while watching this whole dumpster fire.
But it was foreshadowing, don't you know? Subtle foreshadowing.
Hate this movie!
So this time, Coco/Amy gets away, and Jake punches out Father Creepy/Renault.
Aha!
So he calls for a sword to kill Father Creepy Renault, and the whole bloody movie stops. So Jake and the shopkeeper can have a debate about katanas versus broadswords. Humor, wit, excitement.
Oh, I have so much to say here, but this review will be 8 hours long if I do. Let's just keep moving.
So Jake kills Father Creepy Renault, then he passes out, or at least pretends to, and then they derail the last 4 minutes of this movie debating on how to get rid of the bodies littering the property. And then Jake boasts about how many people he killed. Amy/Coco wants to pin it all on the priest, ignoring all the forensic evidence that is all over the castle that clearly points to multiple assailants. And then the movie basically ends on a nipple cripple.
Yeah, I'm gonna need an explanation of nipple cripple.
It's when she grabs his, titty twister. It's also
gotcha. Now I get it.
We also get these sage words scrolling across the screen. Dedicated to all those whom we have loved and lost, and the superstition that they are enjoying our spectacle from above, or in some cases, below. See you when I see you. Just, what the fuck? I like this movie. I really do. But it is also really stupid. It's monumentally stupid. There was promise in the premise, but the execution fell short. What makes it also sad is that this was David Carradine's last official film. He died in 2009, but had a back catalog of films that he'd been working on, and this was the last one released in 2013. Some call it a cult hit, which, yeah, I guess so, but still, why? I will admit, I laughed at the most inappropriate times as I watched this, which just goes to show how sick my sense of humor is. Something about this movie makes it, at times, awkward, funny, especially cringe, and still fun. And maybe that is what cult classics are made of.
Cult classic? Making a lot of assumptions here. I've known you for 15 years. We've been friends a long time.
Yes.
This is the first time I can remember ever being upset with me. You stole an hour and a half of my life with this movie. I forgive you, but I want that time back, damn it. Hated this movie so much. I want to strangle Jake with a belt and kick him in the dick until he passes out. Amy was a whiny, prissy girl who overestimated her worth. Henry was a walking dick joke. Father Creepy, as you called him, was at least fun to watch, though. The whole movie Didn't have a clue what it was trying to do. Jump cuts, no segues, 2 stories that felt incomplete, and not having enough substance between them. I was constantly asking, what the crap is happening here? No movie is supposed to make you question its existence, let alone multiple times. And the belts. Oh, the belts. The first thought I had was, is this where David Carradine got the idea? You know, I will blame this movie for the death of an icon!
I read his bio online. He was into some weird shit way before this movie, but I digress.
If you want a terrible time, if you want to torture someone you hate immensely,
Love.
or if you need to kill some time with insanity, absolutely watch this movie. Because you will not be the same on the other side of it. Trust me.
It is free. All you have to give is your time.
Yes. It will also test the strength of your friendships as it did for us.
And here we are on the other side of it, bigger, badder, better than ever.
That's right, because we're a couple of assholes.
I love this movie. I don't care. It's so stupid.
I'm still mad at you for making me watch this movie. But I had fun making fun of it.
It's so dumb. All right. Well, there isn't too much more that could be said about this. It's a stupid movie. Everybody needs to watch it. It's just, it can't, nothing else could be worse than this movie. I say, knock wood. Oh, well, where can people reach us if they want to hear more from us?
Well, there are quite a few ways that you can get a hold of the Little Old People. First of all of our social media and all of our places where you can find our podcast are on our link tree at linktr.ee/Little Old People Podcast. You can find us most easily on Sounder at littleoldpeoplepodcast.sounder.fm/show/Little Old People Podcast. Or you can just go to Sounder and search. But you can usually find us wherever you would find your podcasts. If you want to contact us on Facebook, we are at facebook.com/LittleOP Podcast. If you want to send us a tweet, we're on Twitter at LittleOP Podcast. And if you want to send us an email telling us how great or terrible we are, we can be reached at littleoldpeoplepodcast@gmail.com. And yes, we also have a Discord.
Yay!
Check yes, if you want to check that out, check down in the description so that we can, continue to associate and run our mouths together.
You can also listen to more of Mark's nerdy thoughts on his YouTube channel, At Home with a Geek.
You are welcome there.
He's been Mark. I've been Cheapy Mythos, your nerd host coast to coast, and we'll see you in the next one.
Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
I can understand comedy relief. I can understand reducing the tension, but that was not the time for it.
No, they literally stopped the whole movie, broke all the walls, and were just like, well, I don't want to use that. It's a little wimpy, it's a butter knife. This is like, really? This is what we're doing now? Honestly, if this had been like a first-year college film, I would have been like, yes, this is the most brilliant comedy to ever comedy. Mm-hmm. But no, there were actual production companies, and they got real actors for this movie. Like, how?
Because unfortunately, evil will always triumph because good is dumb. No matter what, Spaceballs is always the go-to for a good quote about stupid shit. Because no matter what, Mel Brooks is amazing.
Yes, that is very, very true. Mm-hmm. Oh, gosh. Oh, I love this movie. Oh, so fucking dumb.
The song was traveling to a movie about free love on the highway and... Oh my god.
Would you like to try that again?
Nah, definitely put it in just like that. Okay. I wrote that line and it snuck up on me. That shit's not cool. So, let's try that again.
This has been a Little Old People podcast production. Copyright 2021, all rights reserved.